لشکر صاحب زمان آماده باش آماده باش 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 بهر نبردی بی امان آماده باش آماده باش
ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين.
سبحان الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المظلومين المعصومين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: الحسن والحسين إمامان قاما أو قعدا. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
The Prophet of Islam sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam said, when he was living in the city of Medina and Imam Hassan and Hussain alayhim salam were only young children playing around him, he looked at them and he said, Hassan and Hussain are both imams, regardless or if they are standing or sitting. And to understand this hadith, there are many interpretations to it, but the most common interpretation is that Hassan and Hussain are imams regardless of their political status. If they stand and they uphold the khilafah, the position of khilafah, or if they are at home in Medina oppressed and the khilafah has been taken by somebody else. They are imams regardless. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen them to be imams. And this hadith clearly shows that these people were chosen as imams before creation. These 12 men that we follow as Shia of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, they are people that they have been chosen well and truly even before the creation of the first man on this earth, who was Adam alayhi salam. They were created and they were chosen and they were assigned with their names and their titles and their positions, and they were preserved in the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until the day He chose for them to be on this earth. And the other thing that we have to learn from this hadith is that it doesn't matter if your imam is amongst you ruling the Muslim world or ruling the universe or ruling the world politically. He is an imam because he was chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be your leader. It doesn't matter if he is present, you see him in front of you, or if he is absent, like he is ghaib. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam, at the time that this hadith was said, historians say approximately Imam Hassan was 5 years of age and Imam Hussain alayhi salam was 4 years of age. How is it that Rasulullah is assigning imamat to children at that age? It means that they are imams. It doesn't matter if they are in that position of khilafah, in that position of kingship or leadership, whatever you want to call it. It means that you as Muslims, you must follow these people regardless of what position they are. Even if they are thrown in the prisons of Baghdad for 14 years. You have to follow these people regardless. They are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for you to be your leader and your role model. What I would like to highlight about the life of Imam Hussain alayhi salam is what do we know about Imam Hussain alayhi salam before the tragedy of Karbala. Alhamdulillah, as mu'mineen and mu'minat, those who attend the majalis of Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam every year, we know a lot about what happened from the year 61 of Hijrah. From maybe a lot of us know a lot from what happened from the day Yazid ibn Muawiyah la'natullahi alayh took over the Khilafah and he was the alleged king of the Muslims. And we know the political turmoil and we know the situation that happened from that day onwards. But a lot of us, unfortunately, we don't know so much about Imam Hussain alayhi salam in the first 60 years after Hijrah. What is the details that do we know about the life of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in that? And if we know what we know, how much do we contemplate about it and how much do we actually extrapolate from his life so that we can learn and practice it in our daily lives? First of all, we know that Imam Hussain alayhi salam was born in the 4th year after Hijrah. We know that Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam married Fatima al-Zahra salawatullahi in the 2nd year after Hijrah, and Imam Hassan alayhi salam al-Mujtaba salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi was born in the 3rd year after Hijrah, and Abu Abdullah al-Hussain salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi was born in the 4th year after Hijrah. When he was born, I shared with you on the first day that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, from the first day he was born, he introduced him to be Sayyid al-Shuhada, and he mentioned to Fatima salawatullahi alayha and to Amir al-Mu'mineen and to the rest of his family and to the Muslim Ummah that this man is going to be the martyr of Karbala, and he told the tragedy, and as I explained to you in the first day that Jibreel alayhi salam came and told Rasulullah, and Rasulullah sat and listened to the tragedy of Karbala as Jibreel sat and recited for him the musibah of Abu Abdullah Hussain. That was on day number 1. We noticed that Imam Hussain alayhi salam lived with his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam for approximately 6.5 years. In these 6.5 years, we have so much details and so much emphasis about the relationship between Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi and Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Something from as simple as how Imam Hussain alayhi salam did not feed, as in the natural breastfeeding, from any woman except from the thumb of his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to put his finger in Imam Hussein's mouth, and Imam Hussain alayhi salam used to suckle from his finger, and that was his nutritional source. Obviously something that's a miracle. We don't understand it, we don't comprehend it. But it must relate to that hadith I was sharing with you yesterday. Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. Because we know that what we suckled from the milk from our mothers, and we grew our bones and our blood and our body grew from, that's what gives us that similarity to our mothers. Because we are getting that nutritional source from them. So what is it that made Imam Hussain alayhi salam suckle from his father, from his grandfather Rasulullah, that made him so much similar to his grandfather that he was Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn? The second thing that we find is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, in every occasion he saw Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he praised him in one way or another with some of these amazing ahadith that if we want to sit down and interpret and extrapolate lessons and importance from one hadith, we may need a whole book to write about it. As we explained yesterday, there were so many different interpretations. Why is it that Rasulullah said, أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ مَنْ أَحَبَّ حُسَيْنًا? And we said there's at least 3 different interpretations. And that was a very quick summary. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, every time he saw Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he gave him so much emphasis, and he also said some very important sayings and ahadith that showed the great status of this young boy. And people say maybe Rasulullah is just being nice. He's just saw a child and he's being friendly to this child, and he was saying some nice words to him. Just like when you see your young boy, you say to him, mashallah, you're very brave, you're very strong, you're very clever, you're very smart. But in reality, the ahadith that Rasulullah, when we come to read them, that Rasulullah said to Imam Hussain, they weren't something as simple as just praising him. Like the hadith that we started the majlis with this morning. Al-Hasan wal-Hussain, imaman. He's talking about the status of imama. Qama aw qa'uda. They are imams regardless of their political situation. Or for example, the hadith that says, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. Ahabba Allahu man ahabba Husayna. Me and Husayn are just like one. And whoever loves Hussain surely loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or for example, this hadith that he saw Imam Hussain alayhi salam walking into the mosque, and Rasulullah is on the minbar giving his khutbah, and young boy walking. He walks into the mosque, Rasulullah stops and looks at him. He says, Hada Imam, wa ibnu Imam, wa akhu Imam, wa abu a'immatin tis'a.
Subhanallah.
Ta'si'uhum qa'imuhum. He says that this is man, this young boy that walked in, he's an imam. Look at him, right now he is an imam. And his father is an imam. And his brother is an imam. And 9 sons from him will be imams. The 9th one will be the qa'im. Imam Hussain alayhi salam walks on his grandfather while he is sitting in a circle with his companions. And how does Rasulullah greet him? He says to him, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Just like how we sit now and recite the ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. He says to him, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya Zayn as-samawati wal-ard. Peace be upon you, you are the beauty of the heavens and the earth. And one of the companions, see, this is why we need ma'rifah. This is why we need knowledge. Because sometimes when we don't have that ma'rifah and we hear these ahadith, we have trouble understanding them and we have trouble comprehending them. So the first thing we say is, oh, this must not be correct. This must be over-exaggerated. But we don't have that ma'rifah. And this is one of the companions of Rasulullah. He had that trouble. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, how do you say Hussain is Zayn as-samawati wal-ard? Aren't you Zayn as-samawati wal-ard? This is the issue that they have. They don't understand that Rasulullah and Imam Hussain are the one nur. They are the one beauty. They are the one creation. He says to him, how is Hussain Zayn as-samawati wal-ard? Aren't you Zayn as-samawati wal-ard? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, Ya hada inna al-Hussain fi as-samawat a'zamu min al-Hussain ma fi al-ard. What the greatness of Imam Hussain to the people of heavens is so much greater than Imam Hussain in what people know him in the people of earth. What do you think you know about Hussain? You should see what the people of heavens do when Hussain walks and when Hussain cries and when Hussain prays. That you have to understand the status much greater, much more beyond your comprehension. And just something for our lives, for our daily lives, about how to treat our young children, boys or girls. Unfortunately, we live in a culture where a child remains a child until they are the legal age, which here in Australia is set as 18. Anything below 18, anything they do, they're just a child. You talk to them like they are a child. You treat them like a child, like they are still the 6-month-old baby. everything they do, it's okay, they are just a child. In Islam, brothers and sisters, you are not a child until you are 18. There is a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that says that play with them for 7 years and teach them, discipline them for 7 years and be their friends for 7 years. So by the age they are 14, by the time they are 14, they are adults to be your friends. Not by the time they are 18, they are still underage, we say. They are still underage, no legal responsibility, no family responsibility, no moral responsibility. Why? They are juvenile. This is ridiculous. You come and have a look at a 16-year-old boy. He's a full-grown man. Physiologically, he's a full-grown man. Why do you treat him like a child, like a 7-year-old boy? It doesn't make sense. Treat your children like they are adults, obviously in proportion with their age. But don't treat them as that child who cannot carry responsibility from that because they are still children. Once you start giving them more responsibility, once you start giving them more confidence, once you start treating them more like adults, they will grow to be in that position. And this is why sometimes we have young men doing wrong things, falling into haram and falling into the traps of shaitan. And when I speak to the father, they say, oh, my son is this and this, and I don't know how to deal with him. I said to him, find an adult solution. Don't treat him like a baby boy. Even think about marriage. And he says, no, he's still a child. He says, if he's a child, then why are you worried about him doing haram? If he's still a child, maybe he hasn't, is not at the age of taklif. He's still a child. Leave him, do what he wants. He said, no, he's not a child like that. I still want him to be a good person. So you have the expectations of an adult, but you're treating him like a child. And inshallah, in the next coming majalis, I have a whole lecture, inshallah, on the issue of marriage. And inshallah, I will delve into that a lot more. But today, what I want to show you is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa and the sunnah of the rest of the imams, they treated their children like adults. They spoke to them like adults. They gave them the responsibility like adults. And that's why these young children, they grew to be very responsible men and women. It's in reciprocation. Moving on, we know that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam paid so much attention to Imam Hussain alayhi salam that he even taught him how to speak. The first word that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught Imam Hussain salawatullahi alayhi how to say was Allahu Akbar. You find that Rasulullah would stand to pray and Imam Hussain alayhi salam would copy his grandfather. He would stand to pray next to him. So Rasulullah stood up to say Allahu Akbar, and Imam Hussain tried to say the same thing, except he didn't pronounce it correctly. So he said, Rasulullah repeated it, Allahu Akbar. Imam Hussain tried again, did it. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, seventh time. The seventh time, Imam Hussain said Allahu Akbar correctly. And that's from then on, it became a sunnah and a mustahab to say Allahu Akbar 7 times before you start your salah. This is how that sunnah came about. Some people know, they do it every day before they pray, but they don't know that that's how it came about. Rasulullah would pray, he would be leading the jama'ah. He would be leading the Muslims in prayers. But if Imam Hussain alayhi salam was a child and he would get on the back of his grandfather, Rasulullah would never disturb him and sit up. Some of the Muslims, when they finished their prayers, they said, Ya Rasulullah, did you receive revelation in the middle of prayers? Is that why you stayed in sajda for so long? Did the wahi, Jibreel, come down to speak to you? And Rasulullah said, no. My young boy, he was on my back and I didn't want to disturb him. Look at the importance. He just wants to show you that this young man is not like any other child. He has a special status. You Muslims, you have to look at this man with a special status, great status, different to everybody else. Even on his final moments, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa in his very final moments on his deathbed, he was very ill and he was about to breathe his final breaths. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam, where was he sitting? They say as a child, 6.5-year child is big. They said he was lying on his chest. He was lying on the chest of his grandfather. And as you know, those who have seen a person who's about to pass away, they have trouble breathing towards the end. And Imam Ali alayhi salam wanted to push Imam Hussain away from the chest of his grandfather. He said, come off him. And Rasulullah would grab him and put him back on his chest. He said to him, leave him. Leave him. I want to see him more. I want to have more of him. And he would, as Rasulullah was in his final moments, he was about to pass away, he would rub the hands of Imam Hussain alayhi salam with his face, and he would say to him, Mali wal Yazid ibn Muawiyah. La'ana Allahu Yazid ibn Muawiyah. He used to say to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, what have I done to Yazid ibn Muawiyah? May God curse Yazid ibn Muawiyah. What, Rasulullah, he's in his final moments, but he's referring to Karbala. He's saying, what have I done to this man for him to do this back to me? And Imam Hussain alayhi salam, after the passing of his grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he practiced the patience that his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, also practiced. From the day the Khilafah was taken from Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the tragedy that happened to his mother, Fatima Zahra salawatullahi salamu alayhi, that resulted in her passing away not long after her father, Imam Hussain alayhi salam practiced the patience of his father. And we know that that patience that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam practiced after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam got him to reach one of the highest status of imamah that a man has reached. That's why Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Ana asbaru sabirin. I am the most patient of the patient people. Min Ali Yasin. He says, I am one of the most patient people. You know that patience may let you as a human being reach one of the highest status. Some people think that, you know, you are only great if you pick up your sword and you go and fight and you kill. No, sometimes practicing that patience is greater than picking up your sword and fighting and killing. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he's asked about his khilafah in that few years after it was taken from him, he says, فَصَبِرْتُ وَفِي الْعَيْنِ قَذَى. I was patient like somebody who has something like a splinter in his eye. Can you imagine how annoying it is when you have something in your eye and every time you blink it hurts, every time you blink it hurts? He says, I was patient that my position was taken off me like somebody who has a splinter in his eye. وَفِي الْحَلْقِ شَجَى. And I had an ulcer in my mouth. Every time I went to speak, it was like my mouth was ulcerated. أَرَى تُرَاثِيَ نَهْبًا. I see that my position has been taken off me. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam practiced that same patience that his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, practiced as well. And Amir al-Mu'mineen used to always say, they said to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are the bravest. We know that those people, they didn't even fight with Rasulullah in his battles. You are the warrior. You go and take your position of them. He used to say to them, فَوَاللَّهِ لَأَسْلَمَنَّ مَا سَلَمَتْ بِهِ أُمُورِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَإِنْ كَانَ الْجَوْرَ عَلَيَّ خَاصًّا. I will play peace with whatever will make the Muslim Ummah stay safe. I will keep it safe because the Muslim Ummah at that time was very shaky. They had just lost their Prophet. They were only a small minority in the Arabian Peninsula, still regardless of the fact that it did spread, but they were still a minority. There was the Persian civilization and the Roman civilization and all these other civilizations around them waiting to bring Islam down. And if Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam had done something in that time, Islam would have fallen apart. Just like how Harun alayhi salam had to practice patience. When Musa alayhi salam went on the mountain for 40 days, he had to stop and not say anything when Bani Israel went to worship the calf, because he said that if I went to say something, they would then divide up into different tribes, and that would be the end of Bani Israel. And Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam did exactly the same. He had to practice patience in order for him to protect the Muslim Ummah. لَأَسْلِمَنَّ مَا سَلَمَتْ بِهِ أُمُورِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَإِنْ كَانَ الْجَوْرَ عَلَيَّ خَاصًا. Even though I am especially oppressed, even though the oppression is on me in particular. I'm happy to be patient. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam practiced that patience. However, Imam Hussain alayhi salam did speak up sometimes just to make it to the clear to the Muslim Ummah that they are not happy with the situation of the Khilafah. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam was still a young boy under the age of 10, and Umar ibn al-Khattab had become the Khalifa. And while he was on the minbar, Imam Hussain alayhi salam stood up in front of him and he said to him, "Inzil al minbar abi." Come down from the minbar, this is my minbar of my father. وَذْهَبْ إِلَى مِنْبَرْ أَبِيكَ. Go and sit on a minbar that your father owns. Which means that his father was a mushrik, he wasn't a Muslim. So he said, go and find a mushrikeen minbar and you go and sit on that one. This is the minbar of my father. And Umar interpreted it that when he said my father, he meant my father as in my grandfather. Because Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhim salam, they used to refer to Rasulullah as our father. So he said to him, yes, I know it's the minbar of your father, but what do I do if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for your father to be taken away? As in, Rasulullah has already passed. But Imam Hussain alayhi salam became more vocal in the time of Uthman. In the time of Uthman, as you all know the famous story, Uthman decided to push away Abu Dhar al-Ghifari away outside Medina. Abu Dhar al-Ghifari was one of the greatest companions, one of the very special companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was a very outspoken man. He did not stay quiet. And he went to Sham and created a massive problem for Muawiyah, and then Muawiyah sent him back to Uthman. He said, no, you deal with him, I can't deal with this man. So he came back to Medina and he caused more trouble. He walked around in the streets of Medina. He said, "O Muslims, you have inherited the Quran and Bani Umayyah are playing with your money and with your minds." He used to just outright say it. He did not worry about death. He says, I'm waiting for somebody to come and kill me. I want to say what I have to say, I want somebody to kill me. So Uthman said, okay, you don't go to Sham, you don't go to Medina, you go somewhere out in the desert where nobody will see you, you will not have any contact with any human being. What's that area? It's called Rabatha. Okay? He said, you go out to Rabatha. And he said, on this day, this date, this time, Abu Dhar al-Ghifari must go out to Rabatha and never come back to Medina. And nobody out of the Muslims is allowed to accompany Abu Dhar al-Ghifari in his journey out to Rabatha. You're not allowed to go with him. Let him go by himself to show the rest of the Muslims that we don't agree with what this Abu Dhar al-Ghifari is doing. However, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and Hassan and Hussain salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim, they stood outside the door of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari as he was packing his things to go to Rabatha, and they accompanied him all the way out to Rabatha, despite the rule. And there is a very famous, beautiful words that Imam Hussain alayhi salam says to Abu Dhar al-Ghifari as he's about to say his goodbyes to him. He says to him, I don't have the text with me now, inshallah one day we can share it and learn from it as well. But he says to him, Abu Dhar, you are a man of patience, and this is one of your tests. So you go and do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked you to do, and you will find your reward from him. So he has some very beautiful words that Imam Hussain alayhi salam reconciles Abu Dhar al-Ghifari and tells him to be patient in this matter. And when Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam finally received the Khilafah that was his from the first day, in every battle he took part in, Imam Hussain alayhi salam was the first warrior, first man in that battle. He would jump into the army alongside with his brother Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. He did not care, he did not think that, well, I am the son of the Khalifa, let the rest of the Muslims fight and I will stand back and watch them or guide them or lead them. No, he was in the front of the battle, and he was so eager to fight the Qasitin and the Nakifin and the Mariqin, you know, the people of Jamal and the people of Siffin and the people of Nahrawan, that Imam Ali alayhi salam used to sometimes say to his companions, hold back those two men. go and bring them back. My 2 sons, bring them back. They are so eager for martyrdom that if I lose them, then the progeny of Muhammad will cut. There will be no more lineage. Yes, of course, maybe at that time Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam maybe have, maybe Imam Hassan alayhi salam had some children, but when he says, I don't want the lineage of Rasulullah to be cut, it means that the 12 Imams, each one has to have his role, each one has to practice his role. I don't want anybody to be martyred before his imamat comes. And he was a very strong man. Even, inshallah, I will share with you on the day of Ashura how Imam Hussain alayhi salam was such a brave warrior. Nothing stopped him. Nothing stopped him. Even yesterday I was reading about his life in a book, inshallah, I will share with you one day. They say that none of the stabs that was on the body of Imam Hussain alayhi salam was on his back. Everything was on the front. Why? Because he never gave his back to the army. He was always facing them with his face, with his front. He never turned around and went back. Until the time of the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he had to practice the patience again because of the treaty that was between Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan la'natullahi alayhi. And this is the very important treaty that inshallah I will have a separate lecture about it, because there are many things that we can learn from it. But what I want to say is about the generosity of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam. That's something that we can learn from their life. You know what Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan did once he was the Khalifa? You know that there was something called Baytul Mal. It's like what we have in this day and age, like social security or Centrelink. Okay? Baytul Mal is that every Muslim receives a certain amount of financial support from the Baytul Mal. Okay? Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, he said, every man named Ali or Hassan or Hussein, take his name away from the books of Baytul Mal. He does not receive any financial help. Any man who you suspect might be the Shia of Ali, take his name away from Baytul Mal. No, don't give him a single dirham. Don't give him a single dinar. He's not allowed to take any financial benefits from the government. And whatever he requests from the government, deny it. Don't help him out in any way. So the Shia at that time of Imam Hassan alayhi salam and followed on in the time of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, they were living in a very difficult state of poverty. They were living in a very difficult state, and that's why you hear about the Imam Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salam and Imam Hussain alayhi salam constantly having their house opened for feeding, for people staying at their house, for helping out the Shia. You see lots of stories of somebody coming to knock on the door of Imam Hassan, somebody coming and knocking on the door of Imam Hussain, asking them for help. Why is that so prominent in their time? Because the Shia were living in such a difficult state of poverty and difficulty because of the oppression of Muawiyah on them, that they had nowhere to go except for their imams. If you are in need of money, where do you go? Where do you go? And we have that very famous story. He says that he came and knocked on the door of Imam Hussain alayhi salam and asked for help, asked for money. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he had a very beautiful poetry that he said to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. He said, nobody who shakes your door will come back empty-handed. Ya Aba Abdullah. If I come and knock on your door, I'm definitely not going to go home empty-handed. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he puts his hand out and he puts the money behind the door into that man's hand. And he doesn't show his face. And that man takes the money and looks at it and starts crying. The reason he doesn't show his face is he doesn't want to see the face of pleading. He doesn't want to see that Shia, that mu'min, is asking for financial help. You know, when you have to ask somebody for financial help, usually you have a lot of shame on your face. You're a bit embarrassed from the situation. So Imam Hussain alayhi salam didn't want to see that on his follower, on his Shia. He took the money and put it in his hand from behind the door. And that Shia took the money and held it, and he sat at the door and he cried. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, why do you cry? Is it not enough? Do you need more? And that Shia said, no, I cry about how is it that your beautiful face will ever be put under the sand? How is somebody like you, so great, so generous, one day they're going to bury you? How is it somebody like you, one day we will not see his face anymore? What I would also like to share with you is some resources that we can learn more from about the life of Imam Hussain alayhi salam prior to the tragedy of Karbala. There is an encyclopedia of 9 volumes compiled by some ulama. They've called it the Mawsu'atul Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, the encyclopedia of Imam Hussain. It's about 9 volumes, all of them compiling the ahadith, the poetry, the du'as, the sayings, the things that Imam Hussain alayhi salam did in that life, in his life from the day he was born until the day he was martyred. Those who can read these, they are available online. It's in PDF, Mawsu'at al-Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, the encyclopedia of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. You can read it and you can learn so much from it. Because after all, he is our role model. Yes, he is our martyr, he is our leader, he is our inspirer, but at the same time, he's our role model. We have to take lessons from his life. There is a book by the name of Tuhaf al-Uqul an Al al-Rasul. This Tuhaf al-Uqul is a book of hadith again, and it has from each ma'soom, starting from Rasulullah all the way to the rest of the 12 Imams, a hadith about usually akhlaq, topics of akhlaq. So when you come to the topic, yesterday I was browsing through it, from Imam Hussain alayhi salam, come sit down and read some of the beautiful sayings of Imam Hussain alayhi salam about akhlaq, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How does he describe his creator? How does he describe his religion? How does he describe the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So I was reading through it and I was so amazed. You can't help but cry when you read the words of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. You say, what kind of a wisdom comes out from the mouth of this man? You just read it and you can't help yourself. You just say, what kind of amazing words. Every statement you read has a beauty and has so much knowledge and has so much benefit that we can learn from. I just thought I will share one of them with you. He says, إِنَّ قَوْمًا عَبَدُوا اللَّهَ رَغْبَةً فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَةُ التُّجَّارِ. He says some people, they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they want the benefits. Say, you pray Salatul Layl, you will get a special position in heaven. Say, oh, I'm going to pray because I really want that status in heaven. I really want that castle. I really want that house. I really want this. Okay? You say you pay sadaqah, you will have this and this. You go to the mosque, you will have this and this. So some people, they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are after the reward. He says, فَهَذِهِ عِبَادَةُ التُّجَّارِ. This is the worship of the businessmen. You give me, I'll give you back. Okay? If you do this for me, I'll do this for you in return. This is the businessman kind of worship. He says, وَإِنَّ قَوْمًا عَبَدُوا اللَّهَ رَهْبَةً فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَةُ الْعَبِيدِ. And some people, they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are scared. Say, okay, if I don't pray my daily prayers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give me any mercy on the day of judgment. Those who don't pray their 5 daily prayers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will not look at you because you never stop to look at me during the day 5 times a day. I'm not going to look at you with any mercy. So they are scared, rahbatan, they are scared from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I lie, if I swear, if I kill, if I perform zina, all these sins, if I do them, I will be thrown in the hellfire. I'm scared, I will not do them. He says, فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَةُ الْعَبِيدِ. This is the worship of the slaves. Like back in the time when they had slaves, their slaves followed the instructions of their masters because they were scared of punishment. Then he says, وَإِنَّ قَوْمًا عَبَدُوا اللَّهَ شُكْرًا. There are people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in thankfulness.
Subhanallah.
فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَةُ الْأَحْرَارِ. That is the worship of those who are free, the free people. وَهِيَ أَفْضَلُ الْعِبَادَةِ. You worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you are thankful to Him. You worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you think that all that you have from the day you were born, from even before you were created, until the day you live, until you die, until you are put in the ground, everything that you have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thanking Allah, thanking Allah, thanking Allah all the time. Even in the calamities, alhamdulillah. Thanking Allah for everything. He says, those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are thankful, they are the free people. And that's the best form of worship. Don't worship Him because you want the reward. Don't worship Him because you are scared of heaven or of hell. Worship Him because you want to be thankful to Him. Rasulullah, he used to say, أَلَا أَكُونَ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. They used to say to him, stop praying at night time. You pray all night, you're not sleeping a single hour. What, are you scared of going to hell? He said to him, no, I just want to be a thankful servant of Allah. I just want to show how thankful I am to Him. How thankful we are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan in the year 60 after Hijrah died, he knew that he had died because he is an Imam and he knows that on the 15th of Rajab in the year 60 after Hijrah, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan is going to die. But anyway, he knew it, and he was waiting for somebody to come from Sham to Medina to inform the Amir of Medina, the leader, the Khalifa in Medina, whose name was Walid ibn Utbah, also from the family of Bani Umayyah, that Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan has died. So the messenger came from Sham to Medina and told Walid ibn Utbah, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan has died. The next Khalifa has taken in his place, and his name is Yazid ibn Muawiyah, his son. And Yazid ibn Muawiyah says that take allegiance from the people of Medina for Khilafah for me. That's what they used to have to do. First thing they become the Khalifa is make sure everybody comes and pays their allegiance. And particularly from three people. I want bay'ah particularly from three people. The first one is Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And the second one is Abdullah ibn Umar. And the third one is Hussein ibn Ali. He said, you make sure that I get allegiance from these three people. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he fled. Before he was even, as soon as he heard the news, he fled from Medina. And he was in hiding for a while. Abdullah ibn Umar, they say he was a good worshipper. He was a man of many prayers all night and fasting all day. So as soon as they said Yazid ibn Muawiyah is the Khalifa and Muawiyah has died and you have to pay your allegiance, he said, I'm not a man that gets involved in politics. My concern is with prayer. Alhamdulillah, I pray all the time. I pay allegiance to whoever it may be. Yazid ibn Muawiyah can be my Khalifa, I don't mind. The more important thing is I pray every day. So Abdullah ibn Umar paid his allegiance, remained Imam Hussain alayhi salam. At night time, as the same day that the messenger came, at night time Imam Hussain alayhi salam was called to the governor's house. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he went, he took with him his brothers, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, and the rest of his brothers. And he said, you stand at the door of the governor's house. If you hear me raise my voice, come inside. Okay? So he stood at the door. Imam Hussain went and he said, Walid ibn Utbah said to him that Muawiyah has died. I want to inform you that Muawiyah has died. And Yazid has now become the next Khalifa. And he requests particularly you, Abu Abdullah, to do your bay'ah, to do your allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and obviously there was other members of Bani Umayyah sitting amongst them. One of the most distinguished one is Marwan ibn al-Hakam, la'natullahi alayhi, Taridu Rasulillah. Okay? The one that Rasulullah kicked out of Medina. He said, I don't want to see you in here anymore. So he said to him, I want you to pay your allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Imam Hussain alayhi salam said that, you know that I am not a man of fear. I don't fear anything. And I don't want to pay my, if you want me to pay my allegiance, I'm not going to do it in the middle of the night when nobody's around. Just be myself and you, Walid ibn Utbah, and some of your family members. He said, I'm not a man of, he said, if you want me to pay my allegiance, tomorrow morning in the mosque, after Salat al-Subh, I will stand up and say what I have to say. Of course, Imam Hussain, what he was going to say at the mosque wasn't that I pay my allegiance, he had something else to say. And then Marwan ibn al-Hakam, he said to Walid ibn Utbah, he was an Amawi, but he didn't have much, he wasn't aggressive. So he said to him, okay, Aba Abdullah, that's fine. Tomorrow morning you can, do your khutbah at the mosque and say what you have to say. And Marwan ibn al-Hakam stood up and said, don't let him go. If he leaves the door today, if he leaves your house today, tomorrow he's going to make a big scene about Bani Umayyah. Don't let him walk out of the door. Make sure he pays his allegiance now, or I will kill him with my sword. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam turned around to Marwan ibn al-Hakam. He said, are you threatening me? Marwan, you threaten me? Do you know who I am? He said to him, do you know that my grandfather kicked you out of Medina? He said to him, and he talked about even his family and the way they are. He said to him, somebody like me will never pay allegiance to Yazid. If that's what you are after, I will never pay my allegiance to Yazid. As Imam Hussain alayhi salam raised his voice, straight away his brothers opened the door and came in. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, he was like a full moon. If he walked in, everybody fell in fear. And the rest of his brothers, Abdullah, wa Ja'far, wa Uthman, and Muhammad, they all came in to see why is it that their brother has raised his voice. They said, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam had his hand on his sword. He said, Nafsi li nafsika al-fida Aba Abdullah. I am today ready to give my soul towards you. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam said to him, not today. Today is not your day. Just hold your sword. But he said, I will now go back to my house. If anybody follows me, I will know what to do with him. And Bani Umayyah, obviously, they were people of fear. They didn't have any courage whatsoever. You just read their history, starting from their father Abu Sufyan all the way. They were the first ones to flee in the wars. So Imam Hussain alayhi salam went back to his house, except when he went back to his house, he knew that it was time to depart Medina. And you know that, brothers and sisters, none of Ahlulbayt alayhi salam left Medina with happiness. None of them left voluntarily. All of them left Medina out of either pressure or oppression. None of them wanted to leave Medina out of their own will. Because it is the city where they wake up and they sleep next to their grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when he decided to leave Medina, the first thing he did was he went to the grave of his grandfather Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he said to him, Assalamu alayk ya abatahu ya Rasulallah. Farkhuka wa ibnu farkhatik. He says, I am your son, and I am the son of your daughter. Ja'aka liyuwaddi'ak. I have come to bid you farewell. And then Imam Hussain alayhi salam said something very painful. He said, ضُمَّنِي عِنْدَكَ يَا جَدَّاهُ فِي هَذَا الضَّرِيعِ. He said, Ya Rasulullah, can you take me inside your grave? I want to be inside the grave with you. عَلَّنِي يَا جَدُّ مِنْ بَلْوَى زَمَانِي أَسْتَرِيحِ. He said, I want to be inside your grave so I can rest from the troubles of my life. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam cried and hugged the grave of his grandfather Muhammad. And as he cried and cried and cried, he shut his eyes and he fell asleep for a moment. And in his dream he saw his father, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And he hugged him and they cried. And he said to him, Ya Hussain, inna laka fil jannati makan. لا تناله إلا بالشهادة. You have a special status in heaven. You will not reach it until you are martyred. He said, رَبَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى قَلْبِكَ يَا أَبَا عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. May Allah give patience to your heart, Ya Aba Abdullah, from the calamities that you are going to see. And he said that you have a special status. You have to be a martyr. Nothing, you will not reach that status unless your head is separated from your body. And then Imam Hussain alayhi salam woke up, and then the next grave he went to visit was the grave of his mother Fatima alayhi salam. He lied on the grave of his mother Fatima and he said, Ummah Fatima, oh mother, oh Fatima, I have come to say my farewells. And he said to her, mother, what happened to you is going to happen to me. He said to her, just like they crushed your ribs, they are going to crush my ribs in Karbala. And he said to her, just like they pierced your chest with the nail, my chest is going to be pierced with the arrow. And he said to her, just like you were hit and slapped, Zaynab is going to be hit and slapped. And he said to her, just like you lost your infant, I'm going to lose my baby boy as well. Ya Fatima, Ya Zahra. And he cried at the grave of his mother Fatima to bid her farewell. And from the grave he could hear the cries and the weeps of Fatima salamullahi alayha. And then after that he went to the grave of his brother Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. He said to him, you are my partner in everything. You are my partner in everything I have done in my life. Stand up from your grave and come and help me. The oppressors are going to kill me. Ya Aba Muhammad, Ya Hassan ibn Ali, I want you to come with me to Karbala. I need supporters. Come with me to Karbala, Ya Aba Muhammad. And it's like Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam answered him. He said to him, I cannot be with you, however, take my beloved Qasim with you. If you take Qasim with you, he will be my representative in Karbala. He looks like me. He will wear my turban. He will hold my sword. And he will fight for you, Ya Aba Abdullah. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam stood and took his family and left Medina with never to return. And every time the caravan moved from Medina, he would turn around and we would look at the grave of his father. He said, Assalamu alayk ya Rasul Allah. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. والعاقبة للمتقين. إلهي بالحسين الوجيه وجده وأبيه وأمه وأخيه والتسعة المعصومين من ذريته وبنيه عجل لوليك الفرج يا الله. اجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم أرنا الطلعة البهية والغرة الحميدة. اللهم تقبل أعمالنا اللهم شافي مرضانا.
إلهي آمين.
اللهم ارزقنا زيارة الحسين عليه
إلهي
السلام.
آمين. إلهي آمين.
اللهم ارزقنا زيارة الحسين يا الله. اللهم اجعلنا من شيعة أمير المؤمنين وثبتنا على ولاية أمير المؤمنين. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين يحيون أيام الحسين عليه السلام في كل عام يا الله.
يا الله.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts, brothers and sisters, accept your a'mal. And I'm sorry for taking extra few more of your time. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi ajma'in.
يا حسين.